Tomorrow is the Morning Crank Cross. It's the first cyclocross race of the Michigan Cyclocross series, and I am super stoked. This will be my third cyclocross race ever, and it's going to be my first race on a drop bar, my gravel bike, with clipless pedals. I've done a drop bar bike with tennis shoes, and then I've done a mountain bike with clipless pedals, so I'm just going to merge one half of both of those together and try to make that work, I guess. You may have sensed some skepticism there. That is because I realized in practice that cyclocross things are harder than I remember, particularly getting back on my bike after dismounting. I could get back on slowly without having to sort of hop my way back on, but not at speed. But we'll deal with that more during the race. So headed to the event the day of. So we got here super early to try to get on the course and spend some time on it. I also broke out the drone because I really wanted a good shot of the entire course. The leaves are starting to change. It's sunny, 75. There's no wind. It is, in my opinion, a perfect day to be out here riding a bike. I also did get on the course for a little bit of practice. I like to see what the barriers are like, and I really wanted to try to jump these, but decided to go with running. And here's a look at the elite race start. This was actually really helpful because we were able to see some of the course and how some of the elite riders dealt with it. Like this rider here, clearing those barriers in the sand right here, no problem. I could only hope to do that. Here we are getting called up into the starting pen. I don't exactly know how this works, but I think it's probably based off of previous results. Grateful for it either way because we got on the left side of the starting pen and our first turn is a left turn. I thought this might help me prevent getting shuffled out right away. And I think it does because as I dive in, I'm able to stick and hold that position, but we end up coming out of it around mid-pack. It's also worth mentioning that there's 3 tiers of difficulty. There's Novice, Sport, Elite, and today I am riding in the Sport category. So we're doing 400 watts, and clearly all the riders around us are doing the exact same amount of power because I'm not making up any ground on anyone just yet. So we're coming into the first and one of the most difficult sections of the course. It's really off camber. You're making a right hand turn, and I couldn't pedal on that off camber section because my pedal would dig into the ground. So I ended up having to go really low and come around, and it all worked out for me on this first lap. In practice, I was having some trouble getting grip if I stayed too tight to the barrier on that turn, and that's going to get me later. But for now, I was pretty happy to get through that with the rest of this group. We're all strung out, and my heart rate's already 187 beats per minute. Now going into this race, I had a plan that was probably contradictory to a typical plan for cyclocross, but I actually wanted to go out a little bit easier and not go all in for the first half of the race. My big fear was blowing up and not being able to get around the course as well in the last couple of laps, and rather stay strong throughout the whole race. So right here I have to check up, as that rider had also had to check up to the rider in front of him, and that actually allowed another rider to get a position on me. So I think if we're keeping count, I'm somewhere around 11th. Now at this point in time, we don't know how many laps we're going to be doing. The race is 40 minutes long, but at some point in the race you can start to calculate how many laps that will end up being, and the announcer will start to tell you how many laps you have left. This rider on the right, his name is Ray. I believe he is with the Racing Greyhounds, and he makes a really smooth pass there. You know, making up 2 positions for what was probably not a ton of effort. Very nice. We're on the back side of the course, and I would probably call this about halfway. We are going to take you through the whole course for an entire lap, and that way you can get a feel for what every part of it looks like. So everybody's strung out. I imagine everybody's heart rate is also up around, you know, their max. I mean, my max heart rate's probably in the 190s, mid 190s, and I'm not far off of that. Here is, in my opinion, the most difficult part of the course. So there's these gigantic steps. You've got to jump off your bike, climb up them, remount on an off-camber section before you go downhill and then back uphill. So multiple times I found myself unclipped on that section and just trying to ride the course with some part of my shoe against the pedal. But we figured it out eventually. And then we come into a section that I actually really enjoyed. It's this hill. You've got to ride up this hill, but thankfully they let you take the path up it so it's smooth and you can just focus on putting out power. A sustained 400 watts, and my 1 minute best power is probably like 410. So we've got to come off that power quickly. A gentleman here holding some beer in a cup. He says it's not going to be any better sober, and I'm feeling the vibes. I'm having a great time. I want to partake in this, so I downed some beer, tossed the cup off to the side. Really appreciate him being out there to deliver some beer to the riders. It's a whole another aspect of cyclocross that I really enjoy. But I'm just pleased to be at the top of that hill for lap 1 and coming down. It's off camber in this portion, and you're going back and forth. What's nice is a few things. So it's a little bit of recovery on those portions where you're turning and going downhill. You can also see where your competition is at. So the riders behind, are they catching you? The riders ahead of you, are they getting away from you? Now last year I had ridden a mountain bike on this course, and I felt very in control on these downhill and off camber sections. I really just need more practice on my, what I'm going to call a cyclocross bike now. It's really a gravel bike, but I didn't feel as comfortable this year on this rig. Now we get to use the last bit of the hill to pick up some speed. I mean, we hit 22, 23 miles an hour there, and I'm trying to get aero anytime that we're going fast to try to use anything to my advantage to make up some ground on the riders in front of me. And we did just make our first pass of the race there on that downhill section. Coming into the barriers, again, wanted to jump them, think that I could, but it felt safer for me to be off the bike running over them, especially at 191 beats per minute in terms of my heart rate. Definitely an opportunity to make a mistake there. The rest of the course is twisty, turny. It's a little bit slow because you're doing a lot of turning, and honestly I really enjoy it because it gives me a chance to rest a little bit. You know, my heart rate has come down a bit there. We're following this rider through, and we're coming into the sand section, or the first time that we're going to see the sand section today. Now my parents and I had discussed how to approach this prior to the race, and one of the things we talked about was trying to come into the sand pit on the right hand side and angling left to take the steepness of the turn out of it. You know, trying to turn in sand is really challenging. This rider has a little bit of trouble in front of me, so I don't get to fully deploy that tactic, but not a big deal. You know, I have practiced getting on and off my bikes, even if it's not pretty, so I don't mind having to dismount and remount. It's not going to be too bad. So we're getting close to the end of lap 1. Now I do want to get around this rider because I think I can go just a little bit faster, and especially earlier on in the race, I feel like I've got more in the tank, even though we're doing a pretty decent power here. So I see the opportunity, the course widens, and I'm going to try to make that pass. And I was so focused on putting out power and making the pass that I totally forgot what was coming. And I realized that this turn was way more, sharp than I had anticipated. So fortunately, I was able to grab enough brakes to get slowed down there. But I almost just careened through the orange tape. We're on the path for a little bit, which is always refreshing. A little break. We dive back off the path for what is, I believe, the second to last corner before the finish. So we've got a right-hand turn, and it opens up to a nice straight to show us the end of lap 1. So as you can tell, this is a really fun course to ride, and the conditions are really great for riding it. So now we're going to jump around a little bit. We're on the backside of lap 2, and I've really been trying to hold my pace, work on my technical turning and whatnot. Here's a look at what the steps look like. I'm trying to take them 1 foot at a time rather than having to step twice, so I can just treat them like you would regular stairs. Now I'm finally caught up to another rider. I spent the whole of lap 2 just trying to catch somebody, So I'm able to get to this rider and make the pass on the inside there. And I get a boost of motivation here because I'm seeing riders up ahead of me that don't seem like they're that far away. Really, it's probably just because we're all on this hill, but you know, they're within striking distance. Lap 2 sand pit here, and I really want to employ that tactic that I discussed on lap 1. So on the right side, I'm going to dive into the left, and I'm actually able to make it through for the first time. Now this was really good for my confidence because it meant that if I could do it now, I could do it again and for the rest of the race. End of lap 2 here, and I've got some more riders that I can use as people to catch. Now I haven't made any major mistakes on the course so far. Everything's going pretty well. We're on lap 3 steps. And again, this is the hardest part of the course for me. I'm still not clipped in at this point. I don't think I get clipped in until right here, finally. You can see the bike jerked a bit there. The camera does a good job of smoothing that out, but it yanked because I almost fell over. So all good though, we're back on the power. And I'm feeling like I can make a pass or two on this hill. So I'm going to put in an effort, even though I'm at 190 beats per minute for my heart rate. It doesn't feel like it yet. I mean, I'm definitely going hard, and if you were to ask me, I would say, yeah, I'm definitely at like a 9 out of 10. But in reality, I probably was maxed out 10 out of 10. So I make 2 passes there. Now there's 2 people handing out drinks. I cannot take advantage of those. I cannot breathe at this point, so I have to pass that up, but I'm happy with what's happening. Here's another look at the sand pit for lap 3, and I noticed my family was down here, so I was really keen on riding that whole thing. And not only do I do that, I'm able to make a pass on the back side of it, but I put in a huge effort to get through that and to make that pass. And right after this right turn right here, my body can feel it. I am completely sapped for energy. So we actually skipped all of lap 4. It was basically just me trying to catch up to anybody and also hold off other riders. So we're beginning lap 5 now, and I've finally caught up to a group of riders in front of me. Now not everybody in front of me is in the same category as I am, as they start multiple categories together. But I make a mistake here on this off-camber section. My wheel slips out. I went too close to the barrier for the tire pressure and tire setup that I had. So I did block a couple of riders, unfortunately. So I'm going to stay wide and let them go past me. They were faster than me around the course, so I'm going to give them the room to do that. They also weren't in my sport category. They were, I believe, in a Masters category. Now I thought I could stay with them, but throughout the course of lap 5, they get away from me, and you can see they've made their way up the hill already. Now another rider comes by me, and I really want to stay with him. I want to use him as a gauge of how fast I'm going, and he's feeling good enough to have a drink. So I knew that was staying with him was probably not going to happen, but I was going to give it a shot. Try to use the lines that he's using. So he makes a couple of passes here, and I know the sand's coming up, and I don't want to get stuck in the sand if I can help it, so I want to try to make these passes before we get to the sand pit. So I'm putting in an effort to do so. Now interestingly, he actually chose to get off and run, which, not a bad decision, but I was able to ride the whole sand pit, and he had a pretty decent gap on me, and I was able to close that gap down by staying on my bike. Now if I had went down in the sand or had to put my foot down and dismount, it wouldn't have been in my favor. But anyways, here we are at the beginning of the final lap. It's lap 6. The announcer, who was hilarious and just had some great banter for the entire day, was letting us know this is our final lap of the day. So the first thing I've got to do is deal with this off-camber section, get through it clean. I don't want to have my wheel slip out. I don't want to, lose a position here. Just get through it smooth, and that's exactly what we do. We make it through there, and I can check that one off as done because I will not have to see it again yet this race. We catch up to another rider here, and I really want to make any passes as soon as possible because this is the last lap. I've got to take advantage anywhere that I can. Energy expenditure is no longer a concern. Leave it all out here on the course. Now this rider in front you will recognize from lap 1. This is Ray, and actually right here is where he had made a pass on myself and another rider, and I'm finally catching back up to him. It's taken the entire 40 minutes, but we're doing it. Now at this point, Ray and I are pretty close together, and I think that all I need to do is get through some things cleanly, including the steps, which you'll notice I almost crashed there. I could not get my left clip or left shoe unclipped, but I fortunately did not go over my bike like it felt like I was going to. We're back on, and we're feeling a little bit loose, a little sloppy, because we've been riding hard for what ultimately ends up being about 45 minutes. Now if I've caught Ray to this point, if I'm doing the math, I should be able to ride up this hill and stay right with him. But he starts throwing down the power, and I am having a real difficult time matching what he's doing. He's actually pulling away from me. And not only that, he's going to pass another rider and put another obstacle in my way to catching back up to him. Now, it's important for me to catch and try to pass Ray because he is in the sport category, and I am trying to do the entire series for the Michigan Cyclocross race series. I want to do the whole thing, participate in every race. So I'm going to pass this rider as well because every position matters. So I'm able to get around that rider that he had passed up the hill. But look, Ray's he's doubled the gap that he had on me. Now realistically, catching anybody else in this race probably isn't feasible. So in my mind, this is the race for me. I do not know what position I'm in, but I'm hoping I'm in the top 10 so that way I can score points. Now coming up to the sand, I had a decision to make here. I could either try to put in a major effort and pass Ray, or I could just let whatever happens happens, and if he doesn't make it, I also don't make it. And that's ultimately what I went for. I didn't think that I could put in the effort and then still stay with him after the sand pit. So we both end up getting off the bike, and that's okay, because if I have the energy, or if I can save enough energy for the finish, maybe I can still race him to the end. We're coming into the last few corners. What a beautiful course and beautiful day. I want to thank everybody who puts this event on or who participates in it, every part of it. It is fantastic. I had such a great time. And now we're coming in to the very last corner. I'm ready. I'm on his wheel. I'm ready to sprint. I tried to stand up and sprint, and I'm going all in, 700, 800 watts. I've got to sit back down and just push as hard as I can, and we crossed the finish line. And don't worry, we've got other angles here to take a look at. Here's the sprint from the side. We're neck and neck, but you really can't tell how things finished up until you see this photo. I had tried to do a bike throw, and it ended up getting me that position. We were racing for 6th place, so we ended up in 6th and 7th, which, to be completely honest with you, I am over the moon with. I actually thought I was in like 12th or 13th place, but an absolutely fantastic race. I had such a good time today. They had a sign for the series. I'll absolutely do my best to come to every one of these races, and we'll see you there. So we just hauled everything in here. This is the mess. But I think there's something in here that Arya, our dog, is gonna like. In this swag bag here. Birthday cake dog treats. How about that? Smells good. You want this?